Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Ted Shadow Weeson to give our post-review thoughts on Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So let's get started. Alright Ted, so very early on when I first got both Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon from Nintendo, I realized that I could actually use you in order to actually show off how to get all the legendaries, since I knew a few of them you couldn't get unless you had both legendaries from both versions. I was like, you know what, let's make this guide complete. Let's send over the other version to Ted, even though that's really all he's going to do. But you also, had to play through the entire game because of that, so I thought you'd be perfect to have on and sort of give our thoughts on basically what Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon really brings to the table.
I feel so taken advantage of. Yeah, but in order to get to the, there's no way you could have gotten all the legendary footage by yourself, because you'd have to play through the 30-hour campaign twice, so...
Yeah, that wasn't happening. That is not happening at all. But, I mean, I put out my review. I liked it a lot. I think on a surface level, if you're coming to this game completely fresh, like you hadn't played Sun and Moon at all, I think this is the better experience. I think it does a lot of great things, improves most everything. There's a few exceptions, which we'll get into. And I want to say right off the bat, before we get too much farther, that this will be spoiler free. We are going to talk spoilers eventually, but I'm going to have a clear point saying, hey, we're going to talk about spoilers, so you might want to stop at that point. But before that point, no spoilers at all, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's weird. I agreed with your review almost point for point. Almost entirely, actually. And yeah, it's weird because I think that if you had skipped Sun and Moon originally and just played Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, you probably might have the better experience. And definitely, if all you care about is stuff like competitive battling things, like access to move tutors, extra Pokemon, legendaries, and things like that, you're probably going to get more out of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I agree. But where it kind of gets a little shaky is if you had actually played Vanilla Sun and Moon before Ultra Sun and Moon, and where, what has changed and hasn't changed might sit with you differently, That's kind of the weird thing about these. It's also weird that this is the first true enhanced version we've gotten since when did Pokemon Platinum come out? 2000
something, yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah, it's since
yeah,
fourth
10
gen.
years about.
We went 2 gens without a third version, and it's crazy to go back to that. And I think people sort of forgot how few things changed in those. Like Crystal, for example. Crystal didn't add all of that much. There was a Suicune. Really. I can never pronounce that right, but Suicune plot line. I always change my pronunciation. Was like, maybe I'll get it right this time. And I never do.
There were a few minor graphical things, because that was Game Boy Color exclusive. Like, the game would pop up what route you're on. I think the sprites were mildly animated, But in terms of content, Crystal actually doesn't really add all that much. The big thing for that one was the female trainer, which at the time was new. Emerald and Platinum always seem to be the ones that people talk the most about when it comes to the enhanced versions, because Pokemon Yellow, aside from being able to get all 3 starters easily, that's basically the same game too. But Emerald, with its huge battle frontier, and Platinum added a lot and actually changed a decent amount of the engine too, so it doesn't run quite as slowly. Still pretty slowly, but it's faster. It got better. So it's kind of weird where Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are a slightly more mild upgrade, but it's like a weird halfway point between a Crystal and an Emerald or Platinum to me, honestly.
I can see that. I like what the changes that they've brought to it. There's a lot more to do throughout the main game, but it is remixed in various ways. It was kind of interesting going through and saying, oh, this is different, oh, this has changed, oh, this is where they did with this and whatnot. But it wasn't, especially for the first 3 islands, you're not going to see that much that's truly different outside of like some of the island challenges and the totem Pokemon that you fight. Like they'll be remixed from what you saw before, but most of the, and then of course the Ultra Recon Squad popping up, and we'll get into those guys.
Yeah, we'll get into them later.
Because they're just more spoiler stuff, but yeah, those guys popping up and basically being like, here is going to be the overarching plot. Here is the plot coming, we swear.
Yeah.
That's really about it. But a lot of these, like I said, I do like I was delighted seeing how they changed up, like Mallow's trial was a little different and how you did that. And I like the surprise of of the totem Pokemon in Lana's trial. Like, that was cool.
If you were playing the original game, you expected wishy-washy school form, and then it's just Arachnid out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh, okay. The big thing about going through the game, again, that the big change for me, and this is actually both a positive and slightly a negative, a very minor negative, I should say, is there's stuff that actually resembles traditional RPG side quests in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where you'll talk to people and they're like, okay, go talk to this person, bring them this item, or bring me this Pokemon, and there will be like little cutscenes and story stuff that will flesh out the NPCs of Alola. And I actually think that Vanilla Sun and Moon does a really good job of making the world of Alola feel fleshed out, and these extra side quests helped with that for sure. My only issue is that the rewards for doing them all felt really, really kind of lame because they didn't want to add anything major because they wanted to keep most of the TMs in the same spot and things like that. So, like, for example, in Hey Hey City, if you go to the Tide Song Motel and go to one of the rooms, somebody will be like, oh, get my 3 friends and bring them back here. And that's a relatively lengthy side quest. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how long it takes you to find any of the given people. And your reward for gathering up all these people, it's a sweet little story, but your reward's a revival herb, which is this item that you're A, never going to use because it lowers your friendliness with Pokemon, and B, doesn't even sell for much. So it's just like, okay, this was a cute story, but I feel a little rip off here. And that's unfortunately, like, some of the extra rewards are worth it. Like, there's a scene in oh god, what's the name of the city on the first island? The one where you go into the Howley. Thank you. There's one where you go into the marriage, into the city hall, and you deal with this couple getting a marriage license, and your reward for that's a nugget, which is more exciting than like a revival herb. So sometimes it feels a little bit worth it, but a lot of the time it's just like, oh, here's a hyper potion, and you're like, thanks. That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, little rewards are nice. I like the idea of like seeing how this world is sort of fleshed out and with NPCs and whatnot. And there's a lot of like really dark stuff in here. Like you'll go to the cemetery and there's these like really sad talks of death. Like, I mean, this was in the first game as well, but the whole Machamp owner story, like where the owner's a Machamp's owner was killed in an accident, and he got his Machamp out of the way and back into his Pokeball so it wouldn't be killed as well, and sort of sacrificed himself, and now the Machamp feels really guilty about this. And like, holy crap, Pokemon. I like those. It's little moments like that and how they build up to it, but you're right, they don't reward you too much with them. But I do like that they take the opportunity to do those as much as possible. And I like I said, they didn't really change too much up until the 4th island, but it still felt like you were playing a remix. Like, this is familiar, but different. And to be fair, again, when you're going through Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, I haven't played Platinum, so I can't say for sure, but those 3 games, you're still seeing the same basic storyline for those, even with Emerald. And the only difference is that this time you're fighting Team Aqua, this time you're fighting Team Magma. So overall, there are more changes throughout the entire game than previous enhanced versions. Again, I don't know about Platinum, but overall, yeah. So that's the crazy thing, is that there are more changes than usual.
Yeah, there weren't, at least to the same extent. Like, they might have added some slight things here and there, but there's like at least 5 to 10 extra little cutscene side quest stuff per city in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Like, they're all over the place. You're popping up and it's like, oh, this little scene's different, this scene's different. There's a lot of different little cutscenes, and those are the things that I think help keep you interested if you've already played the game before, because I actually played through Sun and Moon twice. I did a Moon file and a Sun file because I loved that game so much. But even with the new additions, playing through it a third time did, like, I appreciated the new stuff, and, you know, as always when you're playing some of these extended versions, you know, the extra Pokemon are often enough to just be like, oh, I don't remember there being Furfrows here, or, like, you know, Heracross, I didn't think that they'd put him in this game, or things like that. You know, that's often enough to keep you interested and be like, oh, man, what team am I gonna make? But still, at the same time, it can feel like you've been here before, even with the changes. They do try. I am glad that they did try, but it can still be like, yep, I'm here before. Yep, I'm here before. I want to get to the new stuff.
Yeah. So I think they did an admirable job overall compared to previous enhanced versions. But let's deep dive into some of the bigger changes. So we're going to throw this one out here real quick because I don't think we have too much to say about it. How much did you end up using the battle agency?
Twice.
Yeah, same here. No, 3 times because I streamed it once.
Yeah, I only did 2 battles. Once when I first unlocked it, and then the one required time in the post game. And then I haven't touched it since. You know, part of it's just due to the fact that I'm not complete with my post-game exploration yet. Like, maybe I'll try it later, because the rewards do seem decent, like bottle caps, for instance. Just a reliable way to get bottle caps will make hyper training much more interesting and much more appealing to me, because most of the time when I'm training up Pokemon, I stop at level 50 because, like, screw getting them up to level 100. That just takes forever. Although Sun and Moon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon changes are going to make that easier, but I guess we'll get to that when we talk about Rotom Dex. So extra bottle caps are cool, but, like, I don't know. I played a lot of Pokemon Stadium growing up, and I've just never really been interested in using rental Pokemon. That's just me, personally.
Yeah,
you know?
I appreciate the challenge of it, where here's a Pokemon, here's their moveset, and try to make this work, you know?
Yeah, I do too. It's just part of why I play Pokemon is to use my team. For example, the team that and this is just me, but I like to use the team that I grow attached to and I want to see grow. I do get why some people would be like, okay, I want to see if I can make a team with an Arbok, a Vikavolt, and a Beware work. Like, I can understand somebody wanting that challenge, but that's just not my interests, personally.
Yeah. And, I mean, there's some crazy things that happen. Like, when I was doing the launch stream for Sun and Moon, I was showing off the battle agency, and one of the Pokemon I had was, I think, a Snorlax with Fisher. Or maybe it was another Pokemon with Fisher. But one of them had Fisher, and I was like, screw it, let's try it. I did it. Took 2 tries, but it did hit. And I was like, okay. I actually got a one-hit KO, which was kind of nice. So, I mean, I'm guessing that could probably happen to you as well, but it's one of those things where I like the rewards that you get from it, but it's not something, unless I'm really deep diving into this game, which I'm probably not going to do, not really worth my time.
Yeah, I think it's more for, I think it might, for a lot of people, end up being something they do to get the rewards and not something that they do and then get rewards from it, if that makes sense. Yeah,
that does. But I will say, one thing I ended up enjoying a lot more than I thought I would, Mantine Surfing. I actually kind of love this mode. It's simple, but it's also like this weird action game in the middle of Pokemon where you do have to sort of, build up your speed, unlock better moves, find out the timing for those moves so you don't crash as soon as you hit the waves, and then as you get to the harder courses, dodging all these freaking Pokemon that are just everywhere in your way. It was a nightmare to get through. Plus, there is a fun reward once you get the top spot on all of them. Unfortunately, there's nothing beyond that, even though it kind of teases it. I'm going to keep that spoiler-free about what exactly they're teasing there. But there's this other tease there. I'm like, oh, do I have to do this thing? And I tried a bunch of different, and it just turns out, no, I can't get what I feel they were teasing. But the reward you do get from it is pretty cool and a nice callback. But what did you think of Mantine Surfing? Because like I said, I really enjoyed it.
it's the better of the two mini games added, which I'm sure we'll talk about Ultra Warp Ride eventually. I didn't play it that much, so I have very little to say. Again, I was very focused on trying to get to the new parts of the story, so unfortunately I kind of skimmed past a lot of the other new content, and I'm only just now like going back to try to experience it. What I do appreciate is that it's another way to get BP, and the rewards for doing it do seem really, really cool. And, it's just one thing I really... When I was growing up as a kid, one thing that I really wanted from Pokemon is to be able to, like, specifically... Like, when you surf or you fly, like, it's just like, oh, here's a generic sprite and you're moving across the water. Or when you're flying, you just warp to the next area. Mm-hmm. One thing I really wanted as a kid is, like, I want a mini game where you actually, like, surf over the water and, like, there's stuff to dodge. Or I want a mini game where you, like, are actually flying over the island and you can see all of these different things. And Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire kind of gave me my flying wish with soaring.
Yeah.
And this game basically gave me what I wanted from a more expanded surfing kind of thing. I mean, I always would want it to be a little bit more fleshed out. Like, I would like to be able to Mantine surf, like, from one end of the island around it to the other and stop in specific places, and have it be a little bit more freeform. But it does, in some way, kind of fulfill that fantasy that I always personally had growing up playing Pokemon, so I appreciate it for that. I just need to dive into it in order to get the rewards and beat the top spot. But I personally kind of doubt that I'll be playing it much after I do finish all those rewards, because you can get BP pretty easily just by spamming Pokemon Bank. So I'm not going to need to do Mantine Surfing to get move tutors and things like that afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciated the fact that once I finished, once I got to the post game, got to the battle tree, and, this isn't a spoiler, it's the battle tree. I got there and I was like, oh, sweet, the beach points that you get do count as battle points, because there was a little joke about that as BP. They beach points, battle points, I don't know, whatever. And they do work, so you get 10 BP per ride, which I think is a nice, quick, easy way to do it. And even if you do really well, you can get up to 12 BP. So by the time I got there, it got to the battle tree, I actually had like 120, 150 BP to use. And so I went immediately to the Megastone place, went down the list, found my Ampharos site, since I had an Ampharos on my team, and got myself on my Megastone. So I was like, sweet! that was nice. So I do like it from that aspect.
Are the Megastones as, like, limited as they were in Vanilla Sun and Moon? Like, are half of them still missing for no good reason?
From what I could tell as I was going through, every one of them was there. Like, the only...
Even Mega Mewtwo? And,
yep, both X and Y version of Mega Mewtwo.
Okay, good. Okay, because that's something that I'm sure that a lot of people will be thankful for, because if you didn't know that there were Megastone download events, because I think those are past now, like your Vanilla Sun and Moon copy, you're just SOL if you want, like, Mega Mewtwo Y, or a lot, like half of the Megastones were just not available to you traditionally in game in Vanilla Sun and Moon for some reason.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that one, but no, that's not the case. I went through and there's just about, I'm pretty sure every single Megastone was in the list.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yep, so that's really cool. But speaking of that, last game, Sun and Moon, we had to search for Zygarde cells. That's gone. Thank God.
Oh, thank Christ.
Because I remember when I was first searching for them, wanted to do a guide and all that, and then I found out that some of them are dependent on the time of day.
Ugh.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to go through every single area at night and and during the day to see if I missed any, and holy crap, that'd be tedious. Like, unless you're using a guide, that's essentially what you need to do. So I was very grateful when I saw the totem stickers were there, and seemed like like you wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. And because they're around buildings, you wouldn't have to search everywhere. You could mostly find them wherever you as you went through, or certain areas, usually closer to society, and they were a lot easier to find. However, I'm not sure if the reward is as good. It's weird.
Here's the thing. Totem stickers, again, like, it's actually kind of weird. I appreciate that you don't have to search at night and at day, but at the same time, it kind of makes the reverse world a little bit less useful because of that. Because the only reason why you need to do that now is for Cosmog, which is the same as it was in Vanilla Sun and Moon.
It's just now it's more like, I'm playing in this. It's night, but I want it to be day, so I'm going to go to the reverse world and take care of that, or vice versa.
It's probably just going to be for like the specific Pokedex stuff where I need to catch this Pokemon at night or at day, for example. But, aside from that incredibly minor thing, I just prefer totem stickers because not only are they not locked to times, they're just easier to spot. Like the yellow sticker it catches your eye a lot easier than the little sparkles from the Zygarde cells. And there's nothing more frustrating than missing a Zygarde cell and having no idea where you left it. Whether it's a daytime cell, nighttime cell. I think I've found every single totem sticker so far that I've encountered. Like, I think I've got like 4 left, and they're all on Pony Island. So
the only reason I missed a few of them is because like I didn't actually explore. Like, I missed an entire area, that sort of thing. But if I went into an area, I was able to find all of them pretty easily. There's one tricky one on Akala Island. But
what one was that?
The one underneath the Sandy Gast.
Oh yeah, I probably would not have found that one if you didn't tell me. About it. Yeah,
you just
that's like the only instance in the game where playing with the Pokemon is useful for anything other than being cute.
Yeah, exactly. That's really all you do it for, is just, hey, you get to play with Pokemon. They don't walk behind you, but you get to play with them.
It's something.
Yeah.
Gen 8, I guess. We can wait for Gen 8.
Cross your fingers.
Hopefully.
I will say, like I said, I don't think the totem Pokemon you get, like, it's cool that you get these, like, here's a Pokemon for you, and they're giant sized. But there's nothing else that's really special about them, and I guess, the idea behind it is that certain moves have different effects on you now. Like I had a move on my Mudsdale. I forget exactly what it's called, but it was a steel move that basically it does more damage the heavier you are than your opponent. So for example,
Heavy Slam, I think.
Heavy Slam. That's it. And, considering that Mudsdale is, over 2,000 pounds, I'm like, well, that's perfect on him. And, but then, of course, I do it to a Mimikyu, and it does great damage, but then you get that Totem Mimikyu, and all of a sudden it's not doing as much damage to it. So that's where it sort of comes into play for your Totem Pokemon. But you don't have the Battle Auras or anything else. You just have a super large Pokemon for some reason.
Yeah, so, I mean, granted, it is an easier way for you to get certain kind of tougher to get Pokemon. For example, Totem Salazzle, which I believe is Moon exclusive, actually.
Yes, it is.
Trying to get a Salazzle can be a pain because it's a Pokemon that can only evolve if it's female, and it's an 85% chance for male, 15% chance for female. So, if you're having trouble getting a Salazzle, then, the Totem Salazzle makes it a little bit easier. I mean, granted, Zygarde is more interesting, but
he's also a lot easier to get in this game.
Yeah. One thing I would have appreciated, I think, that might have made the Totem Pokemon more appealing is maybe if they had a unique ability. Or if they started battle with that Totem Aura. Starting the battle with the Totem Aura would probably make them really broken.
Yeah.
But isn't that also kind of the point, though? If you do this extra side quest, don't you want something that's better than just an average, Raticate or Lurantis or whatever?
It's true. And I don't know. I know it's a hard balance, but it did make the reward just seem kind of lesser. But again, as you said, it's also a good way to just fill out your Pokedex for some of the harder to get Pokemon.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Next up, we have the Photo Club as far as new content, and I used it a little bit. I mean, it's cool that you get to decorate so much, and you do unlock a lot of stuff as you go through. It's just not my thing.
Basically, you hit the nail on the head there. There are some people I know that will get hours of entertainment from this thing. I know a few people in particular who will get so much joy out of being able to take silly pictures with their Pokemon. I just usually don't really care, personally. One thing that I do appreciate, though, is that if you evolve a Pokemon or something like that, Rotom will be like, do you want to take a picture? And then you could be like, sure. And then if you do that, you get a free Rotom Loto, which is nice, I suppose. Like you can get, I mean, although by the end of the game, you're getting those every 5 seconds, but, you know.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. But, I mean, it's a nice little detail. I just, again, I kind of wish that there was a little bit more to it. Like, Pokemon Musical was not very good in Gen 5. Like, I never really used that, but it allowed you to, like, dress up the Pokemon, like, put little costumes on them and stuff like that. If they had that in Gen 7, I think I would actually be more interested in it. Because it kind of feels like the only thing that you can dress up for the pictures is your player, you know? And unfortunately, while there is a few more clothing options than in vanilla, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon still kind of feels like it's got less trainer customization than X and Y, sadly.
Yeah, so. I never felt like there was a ton of new options for me. Like, I changed my clothes once and never did again. Like, I never bothered again. Which is it's sad. I was looking forward to more options, but they just weren't there. I have a feeling like it's always the case, but obviously the female trainers get a lot more options when it comes to clothing.
Yeah, they always do. They definitely do. Because I did a female trainer run for my Sun file, and yeah, they always get so much more pretty clothes. It's Pokemon's sexist, you guys. Jeez. But it's just one of those things where even I'm pretty sure that the women in Sun and Moon, either version, I think have less choices than the men did in X and Y. Yeah, it's lacking, sadly. And dressing up your trainer was one of the funnest things about X and Y. So I'm sad. Like, I'm glad that it's still kind of there, but I would have liked a lot more options, you know?
I liked how you could really mess around with things, though, because, like, one of the things I did was I messed around with it again during the stream, showing off the feature to people who were watching, and I unlocked a bunch of new stuff. So when I was going through, I had my Pokemon, my trainer and my Pokemon face off against each other, like they were, I don't know, doing some sort of ritual. And I'm like, okay, what can we do here? And then I found the animation for Swords Dance, you know, all the swords going up. So I planted that in between them, and then you also have the hiker, the hiker that always photobombs, but it's only his head. So I put his head on the pike. Like they were celebrating, I guess, his death or something. I was like, okay. I was like, that's kind of fun morbid. And morbid. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So, there are a lot of options, and I do really appreciate how much you can really get away with that, especially because you can do it with any Pokemon. So, fun stuff.
Yeah. For the people who are interested in the idea of taking pictures with their Pokemon, they're going to get a lot out of the Photo Club. It's certainly more interesting than Pokefinder.
Oh, God, yeah.
I'll give it back.
And Pokefinder, like, there's more Pokemon that you can see within Pokefinder, but it's still, like, it's not worth it because, hey, you get your rewards are a better zoom function, a better zoom function, a better zoom function, and then, like, it's all stuff that helps the Pokefinder more, and the Pokefinder itself doesn't really do much, so...
No, are you gonna get up to 1 million thumbs up again?
I didn't do it the first time, so I did not care. Oh goodness! So yes,
not bothering.
One of the biggest changes, though, and we did mention this a little bit earlier, but I feel like it's almost one of the more integral changes to it, and really, I don't know, affects how it goes. Is Rotom. He's a lot more active this time. He's talking with you, and the idea behind it is that you're trying to become buddies with him. They're pushing that friendship. So every so often you'll see him with his eyes half closed. He's looking kind of bored or dejected, and you tap him, and he'll do a little cute little animation. He'll get a heart, and you'll be all happy. And the idea is, as you play and interact with him, he'll do a thing called the I don't know if it's Loto or Lotto. I think it's supposed to be Lotto, but they spelled it with, like, it looks like Loto, which messes me up every time.
I always go Roto Loto because I think it's supposed to rhyme, but, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, so you'll get this slot machine, and you'll get various tools, basically, from Rotom, where, like, HP Restore, PP Restore, like a complete PP Restore, which is awesome. More experience points, more money, half off at the Pokemon Center for any items that you buy, easier to catch, faster to hatch things. Like, there's these really, really useful tools that he gives you that make your life so much easier. Like, I was using Roto Catches like crazy when we were hunting down legendaries. It really is useful. And
yeah, the tools are so helpful. It's just
Rotom sucks.
never shuts up.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was just if you had the option to just turn off when you would say, "Hey, here's the part where I give you advice that you didn't ask for," then it would be great.
Yeah, it would.
He just never stops talking, and it's irritating because I just want to look at the map, like, especially for when you're exploring areas like on water and things like that, the more open things. I often use the map to navigate, just so that I can make sure that I'm thorough. And sometimes it can take like 20 to 30 seconds for him to stop talking so that you can see the map again.
And he always gives the same damn advice.
It's not even just that, though. He'll give you a new piece of advice every time you open the menu and every time you exit a battle. So it's just like, okay, I want to look at the map. Wait, I'm going to change a different Pokemon to my front slot. Oh, he's talking again. I'm going to wait another 30 seconds for him to shut up so I can see the map. 10 seconds later, battle's over, and he's talking again. If there was just a way to make him to stop giving you advice, it'd be perfect. It'd be great, but...
And
oh god!
And after a certain point, I was just like, I'm not tapping him anymore. I can't do it because it takes a while for him to even, like, he'll sometimes ask you that question, and he goes through that whole line of dialogue about whatever question, and it doesn't matter which question how you answer a question. He'll agree with you, like, hey, do you read signs? It's like, yeah, they're really helpful. Oh, that's cool. That's really being so thorough. That's a great trainer for you. I don't really need them. They're kind of useless to me. That's really cool. You're, a go-getter. You're on your own, and you don't need to, you know what you're doing. It's like, you can't fail at this, which is also, I feel, takes away a little bit of it, where you sort of need to work on your personality with them. But Rotom will accept you no matter what, which I guess is great. It helps out because you want to get those items, but even Roto Loto takes forever, I feel. Like, it came up, I'm like, all right, come on, because he has to do the explanation every single time. It is just, like, it'd be something I completely ignore if the rewards weren't so good.
Okay, because just to, point out how good the Rotom rewards are. For example, Rotom Bargain, it cuts all of the prices in half for every shop in the game. So, for example, when you're going to buy TMs, which are normally like 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, it's now 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. So you are saving so much money if you use Rotom Bargain. I don't know if they've got the map out on RotoCatch, but it certainly feels like it helps a lot. Basically, you don't have to worry about ethers or elixirs anymore with Rotom PP and Rotom HP, and, Rotom experience points. That's going to make my life so much easier when I get back to training because, again, and Rotom prize money, it triples your prize money where the amulet coin only doubles it. So if you have both at the same time, you get 6 times the prize cash. When I was doing Rainbow Rocket, some of the bosses gave me 120,000 money.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So it's a double-edged sword. Like, on the one hand, Rotom won't talk to you if you just ignore him straight from the beginning, but then you don't get those rewards, and also Rotom just sits there looking depressed and guilt-tripping you in the bottom screen.
He totally guilt-trips you. Like, I know some people were kind of freaked out that their face was looking at you the entire time in Sun and Moon. It's worse here, because I'm looking. I glance down at the map, and there's Rotom looking depressed. I'm like, oh, that makes me feel good.
Yeah, that's
all I can really say. Is like, he is simultaneously one of the best parts, but also one of the worst parts of this game.
I should also note, though, for people who are playing the game on cartridge, I played the majority of the game on my 3DS XL, and then I moved it to my recording 3DS when I needed to record footage. If you move the cart between DSs, Roto Loto will stop happening for a certain amount of time. I don't know, I found that keeping, the game in sleep mode overnight will generally get it back to working again, but it'll just stop working for some reason. But, Rotom will still give you advice, though. That never goes away.
Yeah. And the thing is, they know it's annoying because it's time for me to give advice that you didn't ask for. It's like,
even if that line wasn't there, it would cut down the animation by a good 5-10 seconds, Ugh. It's dumb.
It is a conflicting part, and I'm sure a lot of you have already experienced that if you've played for any amount of time since the game came out. Like, you will quickly realize Rotom's advantages and disadvantages.
Yep.
Oh, goodness. But, well, any other thoughts about the game as a whole before we dive into spoilers?
If you, I think that if you haven't played Sun and Moon, like, at all, then I think you're pretty okay picking up Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I think that if you've already played Sun and Moon, you should look at the game and see whether or not the advantages to playing it make up for basically, like, you really need to buy the game again in order to get these things. Like, you should look at what the rewards are, what the different things are, and make that decision for yourself. If you haven't played Gen 7, though, I think that this is a decent way to experience it.
Oh yeah, I think gameplay wise, I think this is much better than vanilla Sun and Moon. Like one of the things that changed also was, just as a quick note, was they changed how SOS battles worked. Where before it was always endless, now they only get one unless you use an adrenaline orb.
That's just an improvement. It's just better.
That cuts down on so much hassle, because some battles took forever because they just kept SOSing, which is great if you wanted to catch something specific that they need to call in order to actually catch it. But oh my god, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, to me, one of the things that sort of cuts down on is that obviously this wasn't the case for Yellow or Crystal, but it was still new back then. You were sort of still into it. You were a kid, at least for us. So I was much more willing to put up with it, mostly the same stuff again, because, hey, new Pokemon, slightly new features. But in the case of both Emerald and Platinum, they had remakes in between them to sort of give you that buffer. And with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, we're getting it a year after Sun and Moon. We've had no buffer. So a lot of this is still very fresh in your head if you've played Sun and Moon.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, it's, it kind of, in a lot of ways, reminds me of, even though it's not a sequel, it reminds me a lot of what I felt when I was playing Black and White 2, where it's just like, a lot of these quality of life features are an improvement, but the story isn't as good. So, I mean, we'll get to that when we talk about spoilers, but, it's just, that's the, again, we have to discuss the spoilers in order for me to explain why, but the fact that I don't like the story as much is kind of that hard line keeping me from just generally all out just endorsing Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon as the better game.
Yeah. That's something I had to strike a balance with too, but I was looking at it as more gameplay because, the thing is with the story is a lot of people complained that the cutscenes went on for far too long, and the cutscenes are shorter this time around. There's not as frequent, but it also takes away a lot of it. So
you see, I didn't mind the cutscenes because I actually cared about the characters in Sun and Moon.
And some people didn't, though. So that's why it's.
I mean, you can't. Pokemon's like the one RPG you can play without wanting to care about the story. So I can kind of understand that, but at the same time, vanilla Sun and Moon's story was so good that the changes are almost universally to Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon's detriment.
So, alright, I think that covers it for the non-spoiler portion of our post-review discussion. So thank you for watching, and if you liked this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Pokemon, including Part 2 where we talk about the spoilery aspects of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, including the story, the post-game, and Ultra Space. Until next time, bye!